Be careful who you praise and admire. Be careful who you look down upon and wish to avoid becoming. Some people are born into families that encourage education, others are against it. Some are born into flourishing economies, encouraging of entrepreneurship, others are born into war and destitution. I want you to be successful and I want you to learn it. But realize that not all success is due to hard work, and not all poverty is due to laziness. Keep this in mind when judging people, including yourself. Therefore, focus less on specific individuals and case studies and more on broad patterns. Studying a specific person can be dangerous because we tend to study extreme examples. The billionaires, the CEOs, or the massive failures that dominate the news, and extreme examples are at the least applicable to other situations, given their complexity. The more extreme the outcome, the less likely you can apply its lessons to your own life, because the more likely the outcome was influenced by extreme ends of luck or risk. You will get close to actionable takeaway by looking for broad patterns of success and failure. The more common the pattern, the more applicable it might be to your life. Trying to emulate Warren Buffett's investment success is hard because his results are so extreme that role of luck in his life or performance is very likely high, and the luck isn't something you can reliably emulate. But realizing it, as we will see in chapter 7, the people who have a control of their life tend to be happier in life is a broad and a common enough observation that you can do something with it. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. When things are going extremely well, realize it's not as good as you think. You're not invincible, and if you acknowledge that luck brought you success, then you have to believe in luck's cousin, risk, which can turn your story around just as quickly. But more important is that as much as we recognize the role of luck is a success, the role of risk means we should forgive ourselves and leave room for understanding when judging failures. Nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. Now, let's look at the stories of two men who pushed their luck. The counterintuitive nature of compounding leads even the smartest of us to overlook its power. In 2004, Bill Gates criticized the new Gmail, wondering why anyone would need a gigabyte of storage. Author Stephen Levy wrote, despite his currency with the cutting-edge technologies, his mentality was anchored in the old paradigm of storage being a commodity that must be conserved. The practical takeaway is that counterintuitiveness of compounding may be responsible for a majority of disappointing trades and bad strategies and unsuccessful investing attempts. You can't blame people for devoting all their effort in what they learn and what they do to trying to earn the highest investment returns. It intuitively seems like the best way to get rich. It's about earning pretty good returns that you can stick with and which can be repeated for the longest period of time. That's when compounding runs wild. The opposite of this, earning huge returns and they can be held onto, leads to some tragic stories. We'll need to next chapter to tell them. It's not that I'm not completely prepared for reading time today, that's why. It's not organized at all. It's okay. So it is what it is, right? Compounding doesn't rely on earning big returns. Merely good returns are sustained, uninterrupted for the longest periods of time, especially in times of chaos and havoc. We always win. A plan is only useful if it can be survived reality. And a future filled with unknown is everyone's reality. A good plan doesn't pretend this and weren't true. It embraces it and emphasizes room for error. The more you need the specific elements of a plan to be true, the more fragile your financial life becomes. It comes in many forms: a frugal budget, blocks of thinking, and a looser timeline. Anything that lets you live happily with a range of outcomes. It's different from being conservative. Conservative is avoiding a certain level of risk. Margin of safety is raising the odds of success at a given level of risk by increasing your chances of survival. It's magic. It's that higher the margin of safety, the smaller your edge needs to be to have a favorable outcome. Optimism is usually defined as a belief that things will go well. But that's an incomplete. Sensible optimism is belief that the odds are in your favor and over time things will balance out to a good outcome, even if what happens in between is filled with misery. And in fact, it will be filled with misery. You can be optimistic that a long-term growth trajectory is up and to the right, but equally sure the road between now and then is filled with landmines and always will be. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. People want to become wealthier to make them happier. Happiness is a complicated subject because everyone's different. But if there's a common denominator in happiness, a universal feel of joy, is that people want to control their lives. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, is priceless. It is the highest dividend money pays. Having a strong sense of controlling one's life is a more dependable predictor of positive feelings of well-being than any of the objective conditions of life we have considered. More than your salary, more than the size of your house, more than the prestige of your job. Control over doing what you want, when you want, with the people you want to, is the broadest lifestyle variable that makes people happy. Money's greatest intrinsic value, and this can be overstated. It's its ability to give you control over your time to obtain, bit by bit, a level of independence and autonomy that comes from us spending assets. They give you a greater control over what you can do and when you can do it. A small amount of wealth means the ability to take a few days off work when you're sick without breaking the bank. Gaining that ability is huge if you don't have it. They can be life-changing. More still means the ability to take a job with a lower pay but flexible hours. Maybe one with a shorter commute, or being able to deal with a medical emergency without an added burden of worrying about who you will pay for it. Then there's retiring when you want to instead of when you need to. Using your money to buy time and options has a lifestyle benefit few luxury goods can compete with. But doing something you love and on a schedule you can't control can feel the same as doing something you hate. When you accept how true the statement is, you realize that aligning your money toward a life that lets you do that lets you do what you want when you want with who you want where you want for as long as you want has incredible return. Yeah, I said no. That didn't make a big difference in my life. There was just enough money in the bank. The difference happened when I was 22. Part of what's happened here is that we've used the greater was to buy bigger and the better stuff. But we've simultaneously given more control over time. At best, those things cancel each other out. But it feels like you're working 24/7. Compared to the generation prior, control of your time has diminished. And since the control of your time is such a key happiness influencer, we shouldn't be surprised that people don't feel much happier even though we are, on average, richer than ever. It was my dream to have one of these cars of my own because I thought they sent such a strong signal to others that you made it. You're smart, you're rich, and your taste. You're important. Look at me. We tend to judge well divided into what we see because that's the information we have in front of us. We can see people bank accounts for and a banker's brokerage statements. Focus I read. So we rely on our appearances to gauge financial success. Cars, homes, Instagram photos. Modern capitalism makes it helping people fake it until they make it a cherished industry. But the truth is that wealth isn't what you don't see. Wealth isn't financial assets that haven't yet been converted into your stuff you see. That's not how we think about wealth because we can contextualize what you can see. And what's there to be in mind one's root? There is no fast way to feel rich than to spend lots of money on really nice things. But the way to be rich is to spend the money you have and to not spend the money you don't have. It's really that simple. Is it excellent advice? But it may not go far enough. The only way to be wealthy is not to spend the money that you do have. It's not just the only way to accumulate wealth. It's the very definition of wealth. We should be careful to define the difference between wealthy and rich. It is more than semantics. Not knowing the difference is a source of countless and poor money decisions. Riches and current income. Someone driving a 100,000 car is almost certainly rich, because even if they purchase the car with a debt, you need a certain level of income to afford a monthly payment. Same with those who live in big homes. It's not hard to spot rich people. They often go out of their way to make themselves known. But wealth is hidden. It's income not spent. Wealth is an option not yet taken by something later. Its value lies in offering your options, flexibility, and the growth to one day purchase more stuff than you could right now. Exercise is like being rich. You think? I did work and I now deserve to treat myself than a big meal. Wealth is turning down a treadmill and actually burning net calories. It's hard and requires some self-control. But it creates a gap between what you could do and what you choose to do to accrue to you over time. The problem for many of us is that it is easy to find rich role models. It's hard to find wealthy ones because the definition of their success is more hidden. There are, of course, wealthy people who also spend a lot of money on stuff, but even in those cases, what we see is the richness, not their wealth. We see the cars that they choose to buy and impress in a school they choose to send their kids to. We don't see the savings, retirement accounts, or investment portfolios. We see the homes they bought and not the homes that they could have bought and had. They strengthen themselves again. The danger here is that I think most people deep down want to be wealthy. They want freedom and flexibility, which is what financial assets not yet spent can give you. But it's so ingrained in us that you have managed to spend money that we don't get to see the restraint it takes in actually be wealthy. And since we can't see it, it's hard to learn about it. Imagine how hard it would be learn how to write if you couldn't read the works of the great authors. Who would your who would I'm sorry, who would be your inspiration? Who would be your admirer? Whose nuances, tricks, and tips would you follow? It will make something that is already in your heart even harder. It's difficult to learn from what you can see, which helps explain why it is so hard for many build wealth. Keep this in mind when quickly judging others' success and setting your own goals. Save money. My observation is that many do. Past a certain level of income people fall into the three groups: those who save, those who don't think they can save, and those who don't think they need to save. This is for letter 2. The first idea is simple, but it's overlooked. Instead of building wealth, it has little to do with your income or investment returns, and lots to do with your saving rate. A quick story about the power of efficiency. The same is true with our money. Investment returns can make you rich. But whether an investing strategy will work, and how long it will work for, and whether markets will cooperate is always in doubt. Results are shrouded in uncertainty. Personal savings and frugality, finances conservation, and efficiency. If you feel building wealth isn't something that will require more money or big investment returns, you may become as pessimistic. If you view it as powered by your own frugality and efficiency, the destiny is clear. Wealth is just an accumulated afterwards and after you spend what you take in. And since you can build wealth within a high income, but have no chance of building wealth within a high saving rate, it's clear which one matters more. I'm better off than you are, despite being a worse investor. I'm getting more benefit from my investment, despite lower returns. The same is true for incomes. Learning to be happy with less money, creating a gap between what you had and what you want, similar to gap you get from growing your paycheck, but easier and more in your control. A high savings rate means having lower expenses than you otherwise could, and having lower expenses means your savings go farther than you would if you spend more. Everyone needs the basics. Once they've covered, there's another level of comfortable basics. The end pass, and there's a basis that are both comfortable, entertaining, and alignment. When you define savings as a gap between your ego and your income, you realize why many people with decent incomes and save so little. It's a daily struggle against the instincts to extend your pack of feathers to their outermost limits and keep up with the others doing the same. People with enduring personal financial success, not necessarily those with high incomes, tend to have propensity to not give a damn what others think about them. Savings can be created by spending less. You can spend less if you desire less, and you will desire less and if you care less about what others think of you. As I argue often in this book, money relies on more psychology than finance, but saving does not require a goal of purchasing something specific. The flexibility and control of your time is an unseen return on wealth. I'd say it's incalculable. Savings in the bank that earn 0% interest and might actually generate an extraordinary return, If they give you the flexibility to take a job with a low salary but more purpose, or wait for investment opportunities that come when those without flexibility turn desperate. And that hidden return isn't becoming more important. If you have flexibility, you can wait for the good opportunities, both in your career and for your investments. You will have a better chance of being able to learn a new skill when it's necessary. To find your passion and your niche at your own pace, you can find a new routine, a slow pace, and I think about life with a different set of assumptions. The ability to do those things when most others can is one of the few things that will set you apart in a world where intelligence is no longer a sustainable advantage. Having more control over your time as options is becoming one of the most valuable currencies in the world. Control over your time and options. That's why more people can and more people should and save money. Reasonable, rational. You're not a spreadsheet, you're a person. A screwed up, emotional person. It took me a while to figure this out, but once it clicked, I realized this is one of the most important finance. When it comes, it is something that often goes overlooked. Do not aim to be cold rational when making financial decisions. Aim to just be pretty reasonable. Reasonable is more realistic, and you have a better chance of sticking with it for the long run, which is what matters most when managing money. I visualize my grief if the stock market went up, went way up, and then I wasn't in it, or if it went way down, I was completely in it. My intention was to minimize any future regret, so I split my contribution 50-50 between bonds and increase. The math works on paper, it's rational strategy, but it's almost absurd unreasonable. Day trading and picking individual stocks isn't rational for most investors. The odds are heavily against their success. Joshi Brown, who advocates and mostly owns in diversified funds, once explained why he also has a smattering of individual stocks. I'm not buying individual stocks because I think I'm going to generate alpha performance. I just love a stock and I have ever since I was 20 years old. And it's my money, I get to do whatever, quite reasonable. Acting on investing and forecasting is dangerous, but I get why people try to predict what will happen next year. It's human nature, it's reasonable. Jack Bogle, a late founder of Vanguard, spending his career is crucial to promote the low cost and passive index investing. Things that happen never happened before happen all the time. There is never a moment when you're so right and that you can bet every chip in front of you. The world isn't kind to anyone. Not consistently anyways. You have to give yourself room for error. You have to plan on your plan, not going according to plan. The wisdom is having room for error isn't acknowledging that uncertainty, randomness, and chance unknowns are an even present part of time. The only way to deal with them isn't by increasing the gap between what you think will happen and what can happen, while still living capable of figuring another day. Margin of safety, you can also call it room for error or redundancy, is the only effective way to safely navigate a world that is governed by odds, not certainties. And almost everything related to money exists in that kind of world. The best we can do is think about odds. Graham's margin of safety is a simple suggestion that we don't need to view the world in front of us as black or white, predictable, or in a crapshoot, the gray area. Pursuing things where a range of potential outcomes are acceptable isn't a smart way to proceed. We can't know for sure, and this speaks in probabilities. Room for error lets you endure a range of potential outcomes, and the endurance lets you stick around long enough to let the odds of the benefiting from the low probability outcome fall in your favor. Bill Gates understood this well. When Microsoft was in a young company, he came up with an incredibly conservative approach that I wanted to have money enough money in the bank to pay a year's worth in payroll, even if it didn't get any payments coming in. One is volatility. Can you survive your assets declining by 30%? On a spreadsheet, maybe yes. In terms of it actually paying your bills and staying cash flow positive. But what about mentally? It is easy to underestimate what a 30% decline does to your inner psyche. Your confidence may become shot. At a very moment, opportunity is at its highest. You or your spouse may decide it's time for a new plan, a new career. I know several ambassadors who quit after losses because they were exhausted, physically exhausted. Spreadsheets are good at telling you when the numbers do or don't add up. They're not good at modeling how you feel when you talk. Your kids are at the night wondering if the investment decisions you made were a mistake that will hurt their future. Having a gap between what you can technically endure versus what's emotionally possible isn't overlooked and affords another room for error. It's a reasonable first approximation to use that as an estimate of what to expect on your own diversified portfolio when saving for retirement. You can use those original assumptions to back into the amount of money you will need to save each month and achieve your target nest egg. The answer to those what if is. You won't be able to retire like you once predicted, which can be disastrous. The danger is the irrational optimism most of the time, mastering the odds of ruin. Some of the time, the result is we systematically underestimate risk. Room for error does more than just widen the target around what you think might happen. It also helps to protect you from the things you don't ever imagine, which can be most troublesome events we face. Avoiding these kinds of unknown risks, almost by definition, impossible. You can't prepare for what you can't envision. I save a lot, and I have no idea what we'll use in the savings for in the future. Few financial plans and only prepare for a known risk have enough margin of safety to survive the real world. But to underestimate how much their personalities, desires, and goals are likely to change in the future. We tend to never learn this lesson. Gilbert research shows people from the age 18 to 68 underestimate how much they will change in the future. Warren Buffett becomes so successful is because they kept doing the same thing for decades on end, letting compounding run wild. But many of us evolve so much over in the lifetime that we don't want to keep doing the same thing for decades on end. I know young people who purposefully live in an austere lives with a little income and they're perfectly happy with that. Then there are those who work their entire lives to pay for a life of luxury and they're perfectly happy with that. Both have a race. The former reason in being unprepared to raise a family or in a fun retirement. The latter risk and regret that you spent in the useful and healthy years in a cubicle. Regret certainly especially in people when you abandon a previous plan and I feel like you have to turn to other direction twice as fast to make up for lost time. Compounding works best when you can given a plan years or decades to grow. This is true for not only savings but careers and relationships. Endurance is key, and when you consider tendency to change who we are over time, balancing at every point in your life becomes a strategy to avoid a future regret and encourage endurance, aiming at every point in your working life to have a moderate annual savings, moderate free time, no more than a moderate commute, at least in a moderate time with your family. Increase the odds of being able to stick with a plan and avoid the regret then. If anyone, those things on the full extreme sides of a spectrum. The trick is accept the reality of change and to move as soon as possible. It's the equivalent of a stranger making major life decisions for you. Embracing the idea of financial goals and a mate when you are a different person should be abandoned. Without a mercy versus an open life and a support and a drag on that can be good strategies minimizing future regret. The quicker it's done, the sooner you can get back to the compounding. Next, let's talk about the compound as a price admission. Every job looks so easy when you're not the one doing it. Most things are harder in practice than they're in theory. Sometimes this is because we are overconfident. More often it's because we are not good at identifying what the price of success is, which prevents us from being able to pay it. All you have to do was sit back and let your money compound. But of course, successful investing looks easy when you are not the one doing it. Like in everything else in worthwhile, successful investing demands a price. But its currency is dollars and cents. It's volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret, all of which are easy to overlook until you are dealing with them in real time. This is the price of a market returns, the fee. It is a cost of admission, and it hurts. Individual investors fall for this when making their own investments too. The result of buying and selling when the share them is just in the bottom half. The question is that why do so many people who are willing to pay the prices of cars, houses, food, and vacations in trade are hard to avoid paying the price of a good investment returns? The answer is simple. The price of investing in success is not immediately obvious. It sounds trivial, but thinking of the market volatility as fee rather than define is an important part of the developing the kind of a mindset that lets you stick around long enough for investing gains to work in your favor. Market returns are never free and never will be. They demand you pay a price like any other product. You are not forced to pay this fee. Same with the markets, the volatility or uncertainty fee. The price of a returns is cost of admission to get returns greater than low fee perks like cash and bonds. The trick is convincing yourself that in the markets and the fees are worth it. That's the only way to properly deal with the volatility and uncertainty. Not just putting up with it, but realizing that is an admission fee worth paying. You and me. It's hard to explain how socially devastating financial bubbles can be. They ruin lives. Why do these things happen? And why do they keep happening? Why can't we learn our lessons? The common answer here is that people are greedy, and the greed is an incredible feature of human nature. That may be true, and is good enough an answer for most. But remember for the chapter 1, no one is crazy. People make a financial decision they regret, and they often do so with a scarce information and without logic. But decisions made sense to them when they were made. Blaming Bubbles and agree and stopping there in the midst is an important lessons about how and why people rationalize what in hindsight looked like a great decision. When investors have different goals and time horizons, and they do in every asset class, prices that look ridiculous to one person can be sensitive to another because the factors that those investors pay attention to are different. Momentum attracts short-term traders in a reasonable way. That process feeds on itself. As the traders push up short-term returns, they attract even more traders. Before long, and it's so often it doesn't take long, the dominant market price in the sectors with the most authority are those with a shorter time horizon. Investors, particularly the ones in setting prices, were not thinking about the next 20 years. What do you expect people do when momentum creates in a big short-term return potential? Sit and watch it patiently? Never. That's not how the world works. It's hard to grasp that other investors have different goals than we do because in the anchor of psychology is not realize that regional people can see the world through different lenses than your own. Rising prices pursuit all investors wins. The best in markets envy. They're a drug. They can turn value-conscious investors into dewy-eyed and optimists, detached from their own reality by actions and resentment, playing a different game than they are. The meeting I can recommend isn't going on your way to identify what game you're playing. How I invested my own money is in detail in chapter 20, but years ago I wrote out, I'm a passive investor optimistic in the world's ability to generate real economic growth, and I'm confident that over the next 30 years that growth will accrue to my investment. This might seem quiet, but once you write the mission statement is done, you realize in everything that's unrelated to it. What the market did this year, and whether you will have a recession this year, is a part of the game I'm not playing. So I don't pay attention to it and am no longer being persuaded by it. Real optimists don't believe that everything will be great. That's in a complacency. Optimism believe that odds and a good outcome are in your favor over time, even when there will be setbacks along the way. The simple idea that most people wake up in the morning trying to make things a little better and are more productive than wake up looking to catch trophies and a foundation of optimism. It's not complicated. It's not guaranteed either. It's just in the most reasonable way for most people. Most of the time, the latent statistician hence roles in it put it differently. I'm not an optimist. I'm a very serious possibilist. Possibilist. Most people, when confronted with something they don't understand, do not realize they don't understand it because they're able to come up with an explanation that makes sense and based on their own unique perspective and experiences in the world. However limited those experiences are, we all want a complicated world we live in it to make sense. So we tell ourselves in stories to fill in the gaps and in the water effectively in the blind spots. Coming to terms with how much you don't know means coming to terms with how much what happens in the world is out of your control, and that can be hard to accept. Illusion and predictability. In a world where unfortunate events control most outcomes, people know this. I have not met an investor who genuinely thinks market forecasting as a whole as a create of useful. But there's still tremendous demand for a forecast in both in the media and from financial advisors. In all together now, Congratulations, you're still reading. It's time to tie together a few things we've learned. This chapter is a bit of summary, a few short and actionable lessons that can help you make a better financial decisions. Yes, because it's never as good or as bad as it looks. The world is big and complex. Luck and risk are both real and hard to identify. Do so when judging both in yourself and others. Respect and a part of luck and risk, and that you will have a better chance of focusing on things that you can actually control. You'll also have a better chance of finding the right role models. Less ego, more wealth. Saving money is in a gap between your ego and your income, and the wealth is what you don't see. So, wealth is created by suppressing what you could buy today in order to have more stuff or more options in the future. That's different from saying you should aim to earn in highest returns or save a specific percentage of your income. Some people won't sleep well unless they're earning the highest returns. Others will only get a good rest if they're conservatively invested. To each their own, but the foundation of the decision how much sleep at night is the best universal guide path for the financial decisions. If you want to do better as an investor, the single most powerful thing you can do is increase your time horizon. Time is the most powerful force in investing. It makes a lot of things grow big and the big mistakes fade away. It can neutralize luck and risk, but it pushes results closer toward what people deserve. Because in a small minority of things can afford a majority of outcomes. No matter what you're doing with your money, you should be comfortable with a lot of stuff not working. That's just how the world is. So you should always measure how you've done by looking at your full portfolio rather than individual investments. Use money to gain control over your time, because not having control of your time is such powerful and a universal track on happiness. The ability to do what you want when you want with who you want for as long as you want pays the highest dividend that exists in finance. No one is impressed with your position as much as you are. You might think you want a fancy car or a nice watch, but what you probably want is respect and admiration. But saving for things that are impossible to predict and define is one of the best reasons to save. Everyone's life is in a continuous chain of surprises. Savings that are earmarked for anything in a particular hedge against the inevitability to surprise the hell out of you at the worst and impossible moment. Because nothing worthwhile is free, and as you remember that, the most financial costs don't have a visible price tags. Uncertainty, doubt, and regret are common costs in the financial world. They're often worth paying, but you have to view them as fees, a price worth paying to get something nice in exchange, rather than fines and a penalty you should avoid. Worship, room for error, a gap between what could happen in the future and what you need to happen in the future in order to do well is what gives it endurance. The endurance is what makes it a compounded magic over time. Room for error often looks like a conservative hedge, but if it keeps you in the game, it can pay for itself many times over. Avoid the extreme ends of financial decisions. Everyone's goals and desires will change over time, and the more extreme your past decisions were, the more you may regret them as you evolve. Define the game you are playing, and make sure your actions are not being influenced by people playing a different game. Respect the mass. Smart, informed, and reasonable people can disagree in finance, because people have vastly different goals and desires. There is no single right answer, just the answer that works for you. Now, let me tell you what works for me. Confession. Just show me what you do with your own money. The difference what someone suggests you do and what you do for themselves is always not a bad thing. It just underscores that when dealing with complicated and emotional issues that affect you and your family, there is no right answer. There is no one right answer. There is no universal truth. There is only what works for you and your family. Checking the boxes you want checked in a way that leaves you comfortable and sleeping well at night. You can live on a side rich, but independence has always been my personal financial goal. Chasing the highest returns and leveraging my assets to live the most luxurious life has a little interest to me. We are so far committed to the independence camp that we've done things in the made legal sense of paper. We own our house without a mortgage, which is the worst financial decision we've ever made, and the best money decision we ever made. Mortgage interest rates were absurdly low when we bought our house. Any rational advisor would recommend taking advantage of cheap money and investing extra savings in higher return assets like stocks. But our goal isn't to be called irrational, but psychologically reasonable. Eliminating the monthly payment feels better than maximize the long-term value of our assets. It makes me feel independent. I don't trade independence decision to those pointing out its flaws or those who would never do the same. On paper, it's defenseless, but it works for us. We like it. That's what matters. Good decisions aren't always rational. At some point, we have to choose between being happy and being right. We do it because it catches oceans of independence, and more importantly, we never want to force to sell the stocks we own. We want the probability of facing a huge expense and needing to liquidate stocks to cover it to be as close to zero as possible. Perhaps we just have a lower risk tolerance than others. But everything I've learned about personal finance tells me that everyone, without exception, will eventually face huge expenses that they did not expect, and that they don't plan for these expenses specifically because they don't expect them. The few people who know the details about our finances ask, "What are you saving for? A house? A boat? A new car?" No, none of those. I am saving for world where curvables are more common than we expect. Nothing forced in sell stocks and cover expenses, and it also means that we are increasing the odds of letting the stocks that we own compounding for the longest period of time. Beating the market shouldn't be hard. The odds of success and it should be low. If there weren't, everyone would do it, and if everyone did it, there would be no opportunity. So no one should be surprised that the majority of those trying to beat the market fail to do so. We invest the money from every paycheck into these index funds, a combination U.S. and international stocks. There is no cycle, it's just whatever is left over after we spend. We max out retirement accounts in the same funds and contribute 200 kids and 529 college savings plans. And that's about it. Effectively all of our net worth is a house, a checking account, and some Vanguard index funds. It doesn't need to be more complicated than for us. I like it simple. One of my deeply inheld investment beliefs is that there is a little correlation between investment effort and investment results. The reason is because the world is driven by tails. A few believers account for majority of returns. No matter how hard you try to investing, you won't do well if you're missing 2 or 3 things that move the needle in your strategy. The reverse is true. Simple investment strategies can work and great as long as we capture the few things that are important to do strategy success. My investment strategy doesn't rely on picking the right sector or timing the next recession. It relies on a high saving rate, patience, and optimism that the global economy will create an value over the next several decades. High saving rate, patience, and optimism. I spent virtually all of my investment in Apple, thinking about those three things, especially in the first two. First two is a high saving rate and a patience, which I can control. I've changed my investment strategy in the past, so of course there is a chance I will change it in the future. No matter how we save or invest, no matter how we save or invest, I'm sure we'll always have the goal of the independence, and we'll always do whatever maximizes and for sleeping well at night. I think it's the ultimate goal, the mastery of the psychology of money. But to each their own, no one is crazy.